this is excellent. How do the other banks compare to Bank of America as far as their loaning and debts and other stuff like that?
Look, basically all of the too big to fail banks, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, they're all engaged in the same activities generally, but Bank of America is worse.
Cool.
If you look at almost any kind of bad activity they're like the Zelig of the white collar crime era. They're involved in everything. There are dozens of lawsuits involving Bank of America. There's nothing they're not involved with. They had to do a settlement for $410 million because they were overcharging people on their overdrafts. They actually overcharged people to the tune of $4.5 billion. Wow. So even if you're just an ordinary depositor, you're not safe from Bank of America. They're the worst of all these companies.
What do you think of Schneiderman? Do you think Obama's sort of co-opted him by making him the head of this investigatory panel, or do you still have confidence in him, or like what's the...
Well, I think it remains to be seen. Look, all the stuff that I was talking about, that's all securitization and origination. Schneiderman still, the settlement, the foreclosure settlement they just had, does not cover this stuff. And this was the meat and potatoes of the financial crisis. He still has an opportunity to do something about this, but we just don't know. What is good is that we know that he fought to at least allow the possibility to prosecute this stuff.
Right.
And so that's a good sign, but it remains to be seen. These guys should, put it this way, if nobody goes to jail, then he's a failure and he's a fake.
What happens to all the mortgages? Are they still able to foreclose on these mortgages that they converted to these CDOs?
Look, a lot of these people were the people who were defrauded into getting mortgages that they shouldn't have gotten into. For instance, Bank of America and Countrywide, they just had to pay a settlement because they were caught targeting minority borrowers who qualified for fixed rate safe loans but were put into riskier adjustable rate loans. There's going to be some relief for people like that. The foreclosure settlement is going to give some relief to people who were foreclosed upon with robo-signed documents. But for the most part, there's not going to be any relief for these people. If you're in foreclosure,
no relief from all the poor people that got suckered into these lousy mortgages. Is that what you're saying?
More or less. There's going to be a little itsy-bitsy bit of relief, but for the most part, no. People who are in foreclosure are going to stay in foreclosure for the most part.
Hey, Matt.
Can they stay in their homes?
Let's see. I'll make a list, and you can all look on my website on RollingStone.com. There's a bunch of resources. You know, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there are a number of books about this subject that people should read. Definitely.
What happens if Bank of America
the government doesn't bail them out? How do we make sure the government doesn't bail them out? Who do we target?
I think we have to put. This is very important. We got to put pressure on our elected officials to disallow any further state support of Bank of America. A great example is this issue of all the derivatives from Merrill Lynch that were put on Bank of America's books. There was a lot of controversy in Washington about this decision. The FDIC does not want to allow this to happen. I think a lot of conservatives, right-wing conservatives, would not want this to happen. They don't want to have to pay the biggest welfare dependent in America, which is Bank of America. They don't want to have to pay for these risky bets. If you call your congressman and you say, you write him a letter and say, I don't want you to allow Bank of America to put all their crap on our books, I think we could have an effect. And listen, if Bank of America isn't allowed to do that, they're in serious trouble, because the only reason they did that is to satisfy creditors that were nervous about lending this bank money if they didn't move all their most dangerous stuff onto the government's books. So we can have an impact there.
You done with hedge funds and how they're involved?
Hedge funds.
I know, that's a
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
If these people,
If America goes down and their FDIC insured, what happens to the taxpayers? Should we fight for them to be divided up into different firms?
Absolutely, it should have. Look, there are a lot of different ways. We don't want Bank of America to just explode in this massive nuclear explosion and have the government have to go in and clean everything up. Bank of America itself has put forward a plan for what might happen if the company goes under. There has to be some kind of soft landing. Clearly, the company should be broken up into smaller, more accountable firms, and there should be some kind of way to do it so that there isn't a massive impact on the FDIC. And if this company goes out of business, we should find a way that would be a template for all future collapses of these kinds of companies. The crash of 2008, what really happened there is that we were not prepared for the implosion of companies like Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. We have to figure out a way to unwind these corrupt companies in a way that doesn't destroy the rest of us.
Should we take our money out of Bank of America now?
Absolutely, you should take your money out of Bank of America. It is not safe. It's not a safe place to keep your money. You should find a smaller regional bank or a credit union to put your money in.
If these people qualified for much better credit loans, like the high rate ones, why did they give them risky ones?
Because the riskier loans, the adjustable rate loans, were actually, they paid larger commissions to the mortgage brokers.
Larger commissions? They made more money?
It was more profitable for the loan brokers and more profitable for the banks to have these risky adjustable rate loans. Ergo, they tried to put as many people into those kinds of subprime loans as possible. So people who qualified for prime loans were very, very often put into subprime loans, even though they didn't have to be in subprime.
Cool.
Just further here.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, but you want to get up and talk about it?
So part of Dodd-Frank, Section 1. Just really quickly, and then back to Matt. So Dodd-Frank, Section 121 gives the Federal Reserve the power to break up any systemically risky institution. They have that power now. A group called Public Citizen has issued a petition to the Fed to break up Bank of America. You can sign it. Just Google Public Citizen break up Bank of America.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Occupy Wall Street was just the transit workers this morning, and one of the things that's come up is that Bank of America rips off the MTA, and the reason that they don't have money to pay the transit workers or provide restore service is because of credit swaps. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, credit default swaps are just, remember I was talking about bets on all this stuff? That's what a credit default swap is. It's just a fancy way of saying, look, what ended up happening was when they ran out of real people to lend mortgages to, they created synthetic people. What they did is they created these credit default swaps. They're essentially buckets full of bets on mortgages. And Bank of America was selling these things off, like all the too big to fail firms were doing this. I'm assuming...
Well, these are bonds.
Yeah, well, bonds.
Yeah, apparently, I'm not sure how it works, but it's something like that the interest rates that the